Good morning, guys. Happy Thursday. I've seen that you guys have struggled a little bit with the right triangle trig. So I'm going to break it down into two small lessons today. I'm going to first do a video on finding each angle given two sides, and then I'll do another video. Then you can work on the problems that are left, and then I'll do another video on finding each side, and you'll have a few problems to work on there. All right, so this first video is finding the missing angle given two sides of a right triangle. It's very important when we do this. This second button becomes very important. All right, we're gonna hit the second button before we use any of our functions. This second button allows us to find the angle of our ratio. Okay, you'll see that in a second. All right, here's our trig functions. We have sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So the first thing we want to do is number one is we want to label our three sides. Now the longest side of a right triangle, or opposite the right angle, is your hypotenuse. You're going to label that with H. This angle is what we're looking for right here, which is called theta. And the next side you're always going to label, if you draw an arrow across from that, is going to be your opposite. And the last side that's left over, which is adjacent, which is next to the angle, is going to be your A in adjacent. So now we want to determine what trig function to use. You're always going to circle what they give you. They're giving you the A, which is an adjacent, and they're giving you the H, which is the hypotenuse. And you look at our trig functions, the trig functions that deals with A and H is our cosine, is A over H. So the cosine of our angle, in this case it's going to be theta, equals our adjacent, which is 12, over hypotenuse, which is 13. So cosine of the angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we're going to hit in our calculator, you're going to see this. It's going to be cosine of -1. So if I plug into this calculator, second cosine, it comes up as cosine -1. And then I can plug in 12 divided by 13. Close my parentheses. And I get an angle measure, and it says round to the nearest tenth. I get an angle measure of 22.6 degrees. So that angle right there is 22.6 degrees. Okay. If we look at number three, and again, we want to label this to see what we're using. Always label our hypotenuse first, which is across from our right angle. Then we're going to label our angle theta is there, so we're going to draw a line, which is there, and that is going to be our opposite. And then the last is we're going to label our adjacent. And again, circle the two things that you know. And in this case, again, it's A and H, which again, it is cosine. So we're going to have our cosine of theta, or I like just to write this as cosine -1, being that we know that we're looking for the angle, is going to equal our adjacent, which is 6, over my hypotenuse, which is 9. I take my calculator. Remember, I have to hit the second button first. I hit cosine, so I have second cosine, which I want. I can plug in 6 divided by 9, and then hit equals. And remember, I want to round this to the nearest tenth. So the 1 is in the 10th place, and the 8 is 5 or higher, so this is going to round to 48.2 degrees. Let's look at example number 2. Opposite that right angle, there's your hypotenuse, the longest side. Here's angle theta, which we're looking for. So remember, we draw the arrow. There's my opposite. And the last side is going to be my adjacent. The two sides they give us are our A and our O. We're going to circle them. So which of our trig functions down here deals with A and O? Well, we have O and H, A and H, and we have O and A. So we're going to have our tangent, and being that we're looking for our angle, it's going to be the tan of -1 equals our opposite, which is 4, right? Our opposite over adjacent, which is 4, over my adjacent, which is 13. So I hit second tangent, because we're using the tan function. 4 divided by 13, close your parentheses, and hit equal. And round it to the nearest tenth. The 1 is in the 10th place, we have a 0. So it's going to be 17.1 degrees. One more thing, make sure you go to mode and make sure that you are on the degree mode when we're doing trig, all right? Finish 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 for the missing angle worksheet, all right? Guys, have a great day. On Monday, we're gonna work again on finding the missing side. And guys, enjoy your weekend. I hope the weather's nice, and I do miss you guys.